It's the Line Makers on Sporting News, presented by Jack Daniels. Hey everybody here in Las Vegas, it's the Line Makers on Sporting News with Rick Herron, Richie Bachelleri, I'm Brian Blessing. Hydrate Richie. Minnesota, surprising Minnesota at Washington. Well, we got some question marks, guys, in the quarterback wars here with RG3. Is he in? Is he out? Is it Cousins? And the differences in relation to the wagering line are pretty stark here. If he's in, it's a pick 'em. If he's out, Minnesota would actually be a 3.5-point favorite on the road.
Yeah, and that's pretty strong. And I think that's from Kenny White. And I do have to give Kenny White some credit on this one. Okay, last week I was talking up RG3 and said his numbers were comparable to Cam Newton, and Kenny said, one, he said, he's going to get killed. Okay, and two, he said, well, the NFL figured out Cam Newton last year in the second half of the year too. So, kudos to Kenny, I have to say that.
I think that his headache is probably going to be okay for the weekend, and I think we're going to see this game closer to pick'em than Minnesota being a favorite.
Let's talk about the Vikings. Listen, off to a great start. They're doing cartwheels. They're 4-1. Peterson making the quick return. Gebhardt runs the ball really hard. Ponder's serviceable, guys, but as much as they killed Tennessee last week, Ponder still made a couple of egregious mistakes, and he's prone to that.
Well, and you missed another key, though, Brian, is Percy Harvin's turning into a star. And, they're giving him the ball in the backfield. I'm not sure how happy Adrian Peterson is about that in goal line situations. Kick returns. But it's the Vikings defense. They've given up 79 points in 5 games. The last 3 games, they've given up 15 or less. I mean, and this is a team that won 3 games for the whole year last year. They're already 4-1. Vikings out of nowhere got to be considered probably the biggest surprise of the season so far through 5 weeks, right?
As we discussed last week, their regular season wins number was 6.
Right.
And they've got 4 wins in the 5 games. But now, I'm not as sold on the Vikings team. And yeah, Peterson's back and he's playing good. And you're right about Harvin. He's got like 400 yards in the air so far. But looking at the games that they've played this year, if you take the Niners out of the mix, the teams that they beat, 5-13. You're looking at Detroit, who we know is not as the Detroit from the early part of last year. Jacksonville and Tennessee, I think they lost to the Colts, but 5-13. And Pond is efficient. He's playing okay. 6-2 those years, 6 touchdowns, 2 picks.
No knocks against Minnesota. Hey, you beat who's in front of you. Sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them. They got the Niners on the start of a 2-week road trip, let down after playing the Packers and the Lions, but they still beat them. So full marks to them for that. The other thing, Ricky, you got some numbers, though, when we try to trend things out regarding Mike Shanahan, which are pretty telling.
Well, Shanahan in Washington is 4-14 straight up at home, and the Redskins have lost 8 straight home games. So, I mean, that's a stat that's really hard to ignore. Their defense is giving up an average of 29.4 a game. The Vikings are a tough physical team that doesn't score a lot of points. Vikings did beat them 33-26 at Washington last year. I know that was without RG3, but that would kind of make you lean towards the Vikings, but it's not really a game I have a big opinion on.
Let me throw this one at you, Richie. Again, opposite worlds are colliding here. We've got Minnesota, they're a dead under team. Washington's a dead over team. If RG3 is in, the total of this game is 44. If he's out, it's down to 42.5. What wins out here?
I think the under is gonna win out, and one of the reasons is you're not going to get the effectiveness of Griffin running the ball if he's in the game. They're going to take it easy on him. I think Morris is going to get all the carries, get all the yards this week. It's definitely lean toward the under. The Vikings have been the under team. The defense giving up 300 yards a game, and it's not, even if he plays, it's not going to be 100%.
Richie, Brian, thanking you for joining us here. The Line Makers on Sporting News. Minnesota heading to the nation's capital to take on the Skins.